U.S. law enforcement involved in it.
The Quets family has over 100 years of military service. Nicholas was born in Panama while his father
He was shot directly in the back by cowards and shot in the heart. We believe, we're hopeful that because he was in a fight or flight situation, he didn't suffer very much.
A family in mourning after a Marine veteran from Tucson is gunned down while heading to Rocky Point. 30-year-old Nicholas Douglas Quets was shot and killed Friday while heading to the beach with friends, something he's done many times before.
He went down there this time to just enjoy the ocean, the one thing we don't have right here in Arizona. And, he ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time.
According to authorities in Sonora, it appears he was stopped at some form of checkpoint and shot by armed men. Nicholas's father, Warren, says he has yet to hear from anyone directly from our federal government. He wants them involved in this investigation.
Mexico is a great partner to the United States, I'm sure, but this is a U.S. death that occurred 30 miles from the border. We need to have our U.S. law enforcement involved in it.
The Quets family has over 100 years of military service. Nicholas was born in Panama while his father was stationed there and joined the Marines for 4 years after high school.
Ever since he was a little kid, he had desire to serve in the U.S. military.
His final role was working for Pima County doing water reclamation projects. He was an avid welder and athlete. Most of all, he has a family that misses him dearly.
He was, he's the life of the party. He was a guy that often threw caution to the wind, but he never hurt a soul that wasn't a bad person.
These cowards in Mexico that we've been told are the cartel took away my son's favorite uncle, favorite person in the world, and we demand justice for Nick.
A guy that often threw caution to the wind, but he never hurt a soul that wasn't a bad person.
These cowards.
Party was a guy that often threw caution to the wind, but he never hurt a soul that wasn't a bad person.
These cowards in Mexico that we've been told are the cartel took away my son's favorite uncle, favorite person in the world.
I know my son was in an ambush last Friday night. I feel like I'm stuck in that ambush zone right now, and I feel like nobody's coming to get me.
A picture, candles, ashes, and the flag he swore to protect are what Nicholas Douglas Quets' family have left as they prepare for an all-too-empty seat at the table this holiday season.
He was an avid outdoorsman, and he lived his life with a full gusto and passion.
The Marine veteran was shot and killed by unknown gunmen in Mexico while driving to Rocky Point exactly 1 week ago.
He was funny, and I can tell you this, I always felt safe when Nicholas was around.
Nick was my son's favorite person in the world, and for a 2.5-year-old, that's an extremely high accomplishment.
Well, we can't change the horrific death of my son, but we can ensure that a mother this doesn't happen to another mother. We have the power to change this.
They feel left in the dark. The Mexican government is investigating the shooting, but they say no high-ranking officials from our government have reached out to them just on this couch a collective 100 years of military service.
And that my own elected administration hasn't reached out to me a week later is insane.
Warren says they're an apolitical family, but have been able to meet with Republican presidential and vice presidential nominees Donald Trump and J.D. Vance.
Both President Trump and Senator Vance asked me what we could do.
He shared his views on how to address the violence surrounding the border. What he wants now is U.S. involvement in the investigation of his son's murder and for any suspects to be extradited.
We need to prosecute, we need to go after, and we need to bring these people back.
Until that day, he doesn't know how to even begin mourning his son.
I'll process my son once I know that I've done what I can to protect other people from going through the same thing.
News 4 2.
They're not going to sleep until their son gets justice.
No young man deserves to be shot in the back for driving through someplace an hour from his house.
31-year-old Tucson native and Marine veteran Nick Quets was shot and killed on his way to Rocky Point.
Simply going to the beach.
Warren Quets is a retired Army lieutenant colonel who worked in Latin America for over 40 years. Right now, he's in the dark. Is there any details of the assault that you can share with me that you were told? Warren Quets is a retired Army lieutenant colonel who worked in Latin America for over 40 years. Right now, he's in the dark. Is there any details of the assault that you can share with me that you were told or anything like that?
Well, hey, I mean, I'm glad you're asking me that question. So the answer is no. I can't. Everything we have heard, right, is through rumor, innuendo.
The family has been guests at both the Trump and Vance rally here in Arizona this week.
And his name was Nicholas Douglas Quets.
But they say they're not playing politics.
When I reached out to our own administration, got nothing. I know that President Trump and Senator Vance immediately responded, and I met with both of them within 36 hours.
But what does justice look like for Warren and his family?
So I can look my son's killer in the eye, and I can know that he's going to Florence Max in Colorado, and I know I can visit him. That's what I want, and I want him to be there every day the rest of his life to rot in jail.
And while Nick may be gone, his mom says now is the time for change.
We can't change the horrific murder of my son, but we can ensure that another mother doesn't have to suffer the same thing.
I'm Blake Phillips.
We can't change the horrific murder of my son, but we can ensure that another mother doesn't have to suffer the same thing.
I'm Blake Phillips.